Hello and welcome to Adoption Pop. We're a podcast journalist,
a filmmaker,
and a cultural critic versus pop culture's favorite adoption tropes.
Because we're adopted.
Haley, you routinely have therapists on your show, Adoptees On. What made you decide to invite therapists on the regular on your show?
Well, adopted people are human and we come with a lot of mental health issues. And we're often talking about the real difficult parts of adoption, reunion, search, all of those things. And mental health supports are routinely inaccessible to a lot of people. And I thought, well, if I can have adoptees who are also therapists come on and talk about these issues, perhaps it would give a bit of a lifeline to folks who might not have their own adoption competent therapist like we do.
Do you know where you won't find any adoption competent therapists? On the Apple TV comedy Shrinking. Produced by Kip Kroger and starring Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, and a bevy of other recognizable names and faces, the series follows Jimmy, a therapist grieving the death of his wife, and in so doing, decides to get radically and wildly and appropriately involved in his patients' lives. In fact, everyone on this show is all up in everyone else's business, including Jimmy's best friend Brian, who, in season 2, embarks upon, you guessed it, a quest to adopt a baby with his partner Charlie. Shout out to pop stars Lila and Chriszine for recommending this one. Crystal, what did you think of season 2 of Shrinking?
Well, there's elements of this show that I enjoy. I watched the first season. I really, really enjoyed it. But when I went to watch the second, I just had grown weary of it. You know what I mean? I thought that the whole adoption storyline was just a way to develop Brian and Charlie's like emotional growth on the film. It's just a prop. So I really, really didn't like the adoption storyline. Actually, I found it quite like grossly insensitive in many, many, many points. So we'll get into that. But I love the Parkinson's piece in it. I really appreciate that piece of it, and I love Harrison Ford. So I don't know. Haley?
I too loved season 1, really enjoyed it. I felt like this is one of those shows made for me. I'm passionate about mental health. I love how they addressed the Parkinson's, grief, showing what grieving really looks like. People really can check out and fall into addiction and those kinds of things in order to try and survive, clamp down on the pain through substance use. And I can't tell you how betrayed I felt watching the adoption storyline for a show that, of course, it's a comedy and they're, poking fun at, what happens if a therapist goes off the rails? Like, for a show that purports to want to highlight these issues that people deal with on the regular, to get it so wrong with adoption was infuriating to me. Sullivan?
Wait. Sullivan, I notice that you are dressed in all black lace and that you've got your battle lip on. Is that an indication of your disdain for this show?
This show is not for me. I had never seen an episode of it before we watched it in prep, before it was suggested by pop stars. I had heard wonderful things about it surrounding season 1. And so when I knew we were going to do it for the pod, even though I knew that we were going to start with season 2 because that's where the adoption storyline started. Because I had heard so many positive things about season 1, I thought, oh, well, let me just go back and watch all of season 1 anyway, just to sort of orient myself with the show. And I think I made it 2.5 episodes maybe. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, I might have messaged Haley just being like, do I have to watch this? And I think, Haley, you were like, you don't watch. You don't have to watch it. Just watch what we're watching. Like, you don't have to watch. Don't do this to yourself. It's just not, the comedy doesn't resonate with me. Just this style of comedy just doesn't resonate with me. And I had a similar issue when we did Modern Family as well. Although the approach in the comedy is a little bit different, but this just kind of, personalities that are so over the top. And yes, there are poignant and thoughtful moments within it that I know we're going to talk about some of those and what they look like. But I cannot wade through what I just think are people behaving so badly, and maybe behaving is not even the right word for it. I find the personalities of so many of the characters so off-putting that I just don't want to watch them, and I don't find it funny. So yeah, this was a rough one that called for battle lip for sure.
Do you hate it more than any other of your hates on the pod?
I think in a stack rank for me, Modern Family is still at the bottom. So this is episode 30, right? And so on a stack rank, Modern Family is number 30 and this is 29. For sure. But let's talk about it.
Well, if you have decided that you don't want to be a parent, don't worry, because everybody around you can convince you that you should and could be a parent. This fickle man, he knows himself, and he knows he shouldn't be a parent, yet everyone around him convinces him that he should be.
All it takes is holding a baby, your friends bullying you, and in the same scene with adoption being mentioned, talk about some shelter dogs that need to be adopted.
Not just one scene. In fact, the discussion of adopting a baby and the discussion of adopting dogs happens multiple times in this episode. Hand in hand. I was going to say, which, to the writer, creator, showrunner, producer's defense, if you Google adoption, many times you get pets.
Okay, I personally love the line in my home, like that me and my dog are both adopted, because it makes me feel less alone. And but I'm just curious as to what the two of your opinion is around people comparing human adoption to animal adoption, or adoptees versus animal adoptees.
I have a very culturally specific point of view about this. As a Black person in America, who my ancestors were routinely compared to animals, farm animals, right? That I think we all recognize is dehumanizing, is probably the best word, is the nicest word for it. I think it is also dehumanizing to equate human adoption with pet adoption. But that's just my opinion.
Haley?
I've seen it both ways. I find it distasteful, and have also made the jokes about, me being the rescue, and I paid money for my dog, so is he higher quality than a free one. I was free. So, I mean, I absolutely see it both ways. In a show where they talk about acquiring a baby with the sensitivity and thoughtfulness of it, less so than preparing to adopt a pet, it comes across really badly. And it really is, it just sets up the roller coaster shitstorm that we had to watch. We meet the adoption advocate friend, Stuart. I'm very sorry his name is Stuart, because we have a Stuart in our lives that we appreciate and love. So Stuart from The Bad Place says this is his first intro to these people. If you want to know what babies we have in stock, I have a few in the back of my car. Just kidding. I like to make it fun. Like, this is how we're talking about us when we were babies, babies available for adoption, and the insensitivity of, for a baby to be available for adoption, there is a mother in crisis. It's not even mentioned. I got babies in the trunk, take your pick.
I think a couple of things on that. I think the first is, for anyone who's watched this show and says, "Oh, but I think it's funny," and that's just the show, right? Like, part of the shtick of this show is these people say very uncomfortable things and very inappropriate things on the regular. And for me, the problem I have with the show isn't the uncomfortable things that are said. And in fact, as it relates, in my opinion, as it relates to the entirety of the adoption storyline, what people say is actually really accurate to what people say. So, I think this show is incredibly accurate from that standpoint in terms of the things that people say. But there is an extreme lack of sensitivity when it comes to the adoption storyline that we don't see in the other storylines. And I know we're not going to go into all the other storylines, but Crystal, you mentioned there is a character with Parkinson's. There is a character whose wife dies very suddenly. And while there are inappropriate jokes made about these things and others throughout the series, those jokes are made by the people who experience the grief and have the Parkinson's and have the mental health issues. And there is an agency in the joke teller. And then there's also, we see in these arcs of where there is these very sensitive conversations around it. And we don't get that at any point in this show with the adoption storyline.
So should we get into Brian and being unsure and all of that, how he finally comes to the decision as a child of parents whose father clearly made it very apparent that he did not want to adopt and did it more for my mom than anything. It's like, you don't want that as part of your adoption story. That, yeah, dad wasn't too sure. He thought he was too old. So we sent him to the pastor to go convince him. In this case, it's an entire, your entire community of friends that is convincing Brian to become a father. And he finally says, "Okay, let's do it." Do you think that he said yes because he truly believed he could be a good father? Because he faced his own demons? Or do you think it was because he wanted to keep Charlie? Or none of those things?
I have no clue what his motivations are, besides it seemed fun at the time. I mean, I don't know. This is bizarre. Yeah, maybe to keep his partner happy, but I don't think he thinks about anyone else. He's a self-proclaimed narcissist. He literally says, "I'm narcissistic," and So, I, Sullivan, do you have an opinion on this?
I'm struggling to say the words in Brian's defense. In Brian's defense, he is very unsure. He says he doesn't want to do it. He's a self-proclaimed narcissist. We talked about the friends, unnatural pressure. But Brian comes home from, I don't remember if he's at work or the gym or where he is outside the house, but he comes home and his partner Charlie has invited the adoption advocate over to have a conversation. And Brian doesn't know that this is happening. Brian hasn't said, okay, yes, I'm there, let's adopt. His partner ambushes him. Also, so let's not forget that part either.
I did forget that part. Yeah, no one likes an ambush. That's bullshit.
No. And can we also, related to this, talk about the adoption advocate? Did you so I understood this to be what we would call an adoption consultant or adoption facilitator, as opposed to an adoption attorney. Is that, am I tracking on that?
Yep.
Was that your takeaway as well?
Yep, that's what I thought. Mm-hmm.
Like he's the sales and marketing person
No.
of
Well,
adoption?
yes and no.
The goat middleman.
Yeah. So there are adoption attorneys, licensed attorneys, barred in the state in which they practice, that take care of paperwork, those kinds of things. But there is also this whole market that has spun up of adoption consultants or adoption facilitators. And these are unlicensed people. This is an unlicensed, unregulated industry. And these people charge a fee to act as an intermediary between potential adopters and individuals in crisis, women in crisis. And for me, to have this opening of, hey, you can meet my adoption consultant friend. Hey, here's the adoption consultant person. I mean, as an industry, in addition to being highly unregulated, at least in the US, the FTC has cracked down pretty hard on these people for violating federal law. In 2024, the FTC sent a letter to 31 different adoption intermediaries it believed were violating federal law through deceptive or misleading advertising, and also for preventing consumers from providing honest negative reviews of products or services, including things like unlawfully advertising open adoption as an arrangement when the truth is open adoption is not legally enforceable in many states. Like these people as an industry are wildly unethical. And yet here's who we're positioning. I mean, this story could have been written with an adoption attorney in this role, but they didn't write it with an adoption attorney in this role. They wrote it with this person who, I think, to someone who's not familiar, looks and they hear the word advocate, right? Advocate's a nice word. And they look at this as like a good person. But I'm like, this industry, why are we propping these people up?
Would he be kind of like what Georgia Tann was? Like, is that kind of what those people do?
Georgia Tann ran an agency.
Right. Okay.
Which is, now at the time, and maybe Haley, keep me honest on this. At the time Georgia Tann ran her agency, I don't think there were the legal certifications and licensure that is in effect today for a reputable adoption agency.
Yeah, and a lot of who you would see would need licensing or social workers who would work for an agency and do your home study. And also, facilitators or consultants, they're outside of that. They should be outside of that process. If you were going to an adoption agency, you would likely engage with a social worker if it was, done by the book, and they would do your home study and they would be the one interacting with the mom and you and like all those things. And they have guidelines that they are obliged to work within, the legal and ethical guidelines. But this, to your point, Sullivan, this person does not. His baby's in his trunk. Like, he's not following any rules.
But he helps them connect with a woman in crisis.
The fastest ever.
Super fast.
Brian reports, Charlie and I found a baby, which means Stuart found a baby for us. Mixed race. Liz says, their nosy neighbor, I've always wanted a mixed race baby. Who talks like that?
White people. Sorry.
I was just going to say.
I'm sorry. Was that an outside voice? I need to go reapply my lipstick.
I've heard this, and my question is, what is the obsession with mixed-raced babies? Like, I know we've talked before when we did the Sex and the City episode, but like, what's up with that?
I thought this might come up. Racial fetishization refers to the process whereby individual members within a racial group are stripped of their individuality and instead reduced to a set of stereotypical and exoticized ideas attached to their racial background. This reflects long-standing histories of racial oppression, including the legacies of colonialism and slavery, and it rarely reflects genuine appreciation for a racial group or culture.
I like that last sentence there. That's very accurate.
Mm-hmm. And we'll link in the show notes. There's a fantastic book by Kimberly McKee, who is a critical adoption scholar, that looks at, and her book is specifically fetishization of Asian adoptees. But her research and really this idea of fetish around racial groups more generally is absolutely applicable. Though in this case, in Shrinking, we do in fact have an Asian baby, because we know Ava is a white woman and she is pregnant. Her partner is Japanese. So we know that this baby has a Japanese dad.
And Charlie is also Japanese, yes?
Yes. Interestingly, though, to your point, Haley, while Charlie indicates that this is a positive for him because he is also, I believe he's half Japanese. He's also half Japanese. This I've always wanted a mixed race baby is the white neighbor who is the one that expresses this.
Yes. I don't know if I've ever hated a character so much in my whole life.
Yes.
And you know me, I'm pretty like, I can find the good in people. I could not stand her.
Hate her.
It's so funny, right? Because in season 1, she is parenting her neighbor's abandoned kid because he's in grief and lost her mother. And so she's like stepped in, and tried to do her best. And she blows every good feeling I had about her and burns it to the ground. And she was annoying, yes, and obnoxious, yes. But now it is a level that is just egregious.
So when Ava meets Brian and Charlie, I think Brian sort of talks about he's open and talks about how he was unsure and he didn't think he was going to be a good father. And Ava asks him, well, how do you feel about being a father now? And he replies, better. And I was like, if I was the birth mother, I'd be like, that's not good enough for me. Better, like not great, not excellent. I'm absolutely without a doubt sure that I am ready to be a father. He says, better. What'd you think about that?
Well, remember that they role played for this conversation. And when they role played for this conversation, and Liz role plays Ava, she role plays Ava as hypersexualized and dumb as a box of rocks. So, in answer to your question, how would a birth mom feel? Well, you know, Ava can't possibly be that intelligent anyway. So why do we care? Anything will be better than Ava, right?
I hated that role playing scene. It was so tough to watch. It just, ugh.
But Liz does say something true in that scene. She says, the moment they put that baby in your arms and you see the trust in his eyes, you know it's the most important thing you'll ever do. And none of them are like, and so like, let's see if Ava actually wants to parent. And in the next conversation when they're having with Ava, you know, Brian and Charlie express this. We know it takes a village to raise a child, you know, and our friends they're not here because they're putting their kids first. And that's the kind of village that your child would have. I've advocated this for so long. Like, why are we not like embracing Ava into our village then? Like, no, we got to like just pluck out that baby and you just get the fuck out of here and we got this. Like,
Yeah, well said. Well said, Haley.
Ultimately, Ava actually decides to go with a different couple. And even though their meeting went so well and they have all these things in common, musicals, and I guess that's it, she picks someone else. And Brian is so angry. And this makes the adoption advocate kind of happy because he's like, okay, well, you are ready. Like we're going down this path. Like he's counting the money, I guess, that he's going to make from this transaction. And he offers up a couple of other opportunities. And Brian, again, he's so, are these the things people say truly? And is this the realistic dialogue, Sullivan, that you were maybe talking about earlier? He's like, well, there's twins available. And Brian's like, well, after a decade or a year, can we decide which one we want to keep? And then he says, there's another mom that's 38 years old. And he's like, I don't want to grandma baby. What do they nurse on dust? Like,
that was so awful.
Yeah. It's so, this is unrealistic in a way that there's no hopeful adoptive parents getting presented with multiple choices of available infants. That is not a thing. The true thing is that there's 45 singles or couples lined up for one available infant. And instead, a mother will be presented with hundreds of profiles, as many as you could dream of, to choose from.
One thing I did think, because they get a piece of that right. In Ava's selection of someone else, the advocate, I don't want to call him an advocate. I'd rather call him, because advocate sounds nice, right? Like the go-between, the for-profit go-between is saying, oh, someone else will look at your profile and see your profile. And to your point, Haley, like these hopeful adoptive parents create these profiles for women in crisis to look at. I was just curious because we always throw out like, oh, it takes a really long time to adopt. And I just did a quick search on the internet just to see if I could find something interesting. And I found this one organization that so it's the National Adoption Foundation. That's what it's called. But their website, their handle is fundyouradoption.org. They're actually about like helping you fund your adoption. So I want to be really clear about like, this is the website that I chose to quote from. And this is what they said in the question: how long does it take to adopt a child that is newborn? Right? Because we're not talking about older foster children. Newborn. This is what they have on their website. Newborn adoptions can take 2 to 7 years. The longest part of the process is finding the available newborn. The majority of people adopting want a newborn. The demand for newborns is much higher than the availability. There are ways you can shorten this process. You can go ahead and begin meeting the pre-placement criteria by having a home study completed. The chances of getting a newborn will be increased if you are flexible on race, gender, or disability.
What happened to you get what you get and you don't get upset?
These people wouldn't be adopting if that was the case anyway. Though, right?
Not in this economy, Crystal.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to. I mean, they're not lying in there, right?
No.
It's the truth, but it's like
all true.
It's yeah.
All true. But so for a moment, we believe all is lost. But then Ava changes her mind. And why does she change her mind?
Ooh, pick me.
Crystal, why does Ava change her mind?
Because Brian kept a pencil with a little troll on the end of it. And because the other couple were Disney adults.
And they wanted to dictate that Ava have a water birth, and they wanted to name her baby Ariel.
Yes.
So during the celebration, all the friends know they're here, they're celebrating. The guy that owns the food truck says, I'm going to dress up the baby like a shrimp and they'll be the food truck's mascot. And then they all say, we approve of tiny shrimp baby. I'm like, okay, so she just told you she doesn't want anything to do with Ariel water birth. But like, we're going to dress up the baby like a shrimp. You know, it's just, I know it's a joke. And it's like that never happened. She's on our list now. Like, we can do whatever we want with the baby. Like, it just.
I had another takeaway from that also, which is, again, continuing to denigrate Ava and her intelligence level and her seriousness level. Oh, she decided not to go with the other couple because they're Disney adults. Like, how frivolous for such a serious decision. And yet we're continuing to make Ava just look like, again, totally irresponsible. She cannot possibly parent.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I thought, my goodness, you know, I really felt for any first mother that's watching this show. And as an adoptee, you know, we talk about the importance of how we're represented in TV, film, media. And how can you possibly feel anything but degraded when you watch media like this as a birth mother? I really, my heart really felt for birth mothers.
So the show's creator, Bill Lawrence, actually got a lot of pushback after season 1 about the unreality of this show, insofar as its very baseline premise are these therapists that are getting like inappropriately close with their clients. And what Bill Lawrence said is, look, we interviewed 100 therapists when we were writing this show. And all of these, what you are claiming are like wildly inappropriate storylines, actually happened. People actually forming relationships with their clients, you know, romantic relationships with their clients, and taking their clients to like boxing gyms and like all these kind of things. And I thought, When I read that, I thought, number one, of course I believe it. Look, I spent a lot of my career in HR and legal. So like, I got some stories. Like this stuff happened. Like I don't doubt this stuff happens. But I think, and I also, like I go back to, I think the adoption storyline, insofar as how people are talking about Ava, the birth mother, and objectifying and fetishizing the adoptee, I think it is accurate. I think people do talk that way. But I think what frustrates me so much about this show is to do that without any kind of correction or voice of compassion just shows an extreme lack of care to adoptees and birth parents that don't exist for the other characters in this show that are going through death and grief and illness and like all these other kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we've talked almost through the entirety of season 2 at this point. It may be the time now to ask the question, who's the adoptive parent in the making of Shrinking?
No.
Oh.
I mean, there's
It's
always...
probably Liz.
It's not Liz. I kind of hoped it would be Liz. Honestly, I kind of wanted it to be Liz because I also hate her so much.
So much. She's unlikable.
So much. It's not Liz. Okay, we're going to have to go like deep into the pop culture recesses on this one and recall that Harrison Ford has a longtime partner in Callista Flockhart, the actress, who, before they got together, adopted a baby in 2001 that Harrison then also adopted when he and Callista got together. So Harrison Ford is in fact an adoptive parent, though he adopted his partner's adopted infant, if that makes sense.
It's almost like a step parent adoption.
It's sort of like a step parent adoption. It is, yes. I raise that though when we talk about like go back to like whose voices are in the room and whose voices are in the mix. That absolutely this looks more it is more akin to a step parent adoption, but Harrison Ford is in fact has in fact raised an adopted child, a child that is in fact an adoptee, not a step parent a step parent. He was adopted by Callista Flockhart as an infant.
So, was there any mention of the hundreds of adopted people or mothers who relinquished, consulted for season 2 or 3? Just
100 therapists.
For season 1.
100 therapists.
Okay.
What else do you want to know?
So you're saying no. The answer's no.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I do not know. I didn't find anything that said that. However, you know, the Google machine has gone off the AI rails at this point. So maybe there were hundreds of adoptees and birth mothers consulted. And look, if people know this and they want to email us, drop it in the comments, that absolutely there may be something out there that says that and I didn't find it.
I'm doubtful.
I'm just saying.
And I really appreciate your comment on the fact that they handle these other sensitive issues with the impacted person making the jokes, and instead we see like punching down for any of the adoption content, which of course is not what we like to see. Any other comments on season 2, or shall we go to Crystal giving an award?
I think Crystal should give an award.
I'm excited.
Okay, well, I mean, I think I've said it 3 times in this episode, and I'll say it again. This award is inspired by my dislike for Liz. So this is the Ma'am, That's Not Your Baby award. Presented to Liz for being the absolute worst. Your unmatched ability to meddle, possess, and insert yourself where no one asked will never be forgotten. I hate that the main takeaway in this season was how much I couldn't stand Liz. That was my main takeaway. I don't want to ever watch this show again because I can't stand her so much. And wait, they did try and like add in a few things, like, because to me Liz is the true villain here. They tried to add in a few little pieces where, you know, she kind of like tried to redeem herself and like tried to give a little bit of perspective on a mother who'd birthed a child, but overall it did not make up for what a pain in the ass she was. Listeners, viewers, and pop stars, we would love to hear from you. What award would you give season 2 of Shrinking or to a character on the show? Leave your comments for us on Instagram or YouTube.
Adoption Pop is podcast journalist Haley Radke,
Filmmaker Crystal Park,
and cultural critic Sullivan Summer. In researching this episode, we relied on Emily Longaretta for Vanity Fair. Shrinking creator Bill Lawrence rejects backlash, claiming series is unrealistic. We interviewed 100 therapists. Kelsey Lentz and Nicole Pomerico for People. Meet Harrison Ford and Callista Flockhart's son Liam. U.S. Federal Trade Commission, FTC warns adoption intermediaries against misleading parents. Kimberly McKee, Adoption Fantasies, the Fetishization of Asian Adoptees from Girlhood to Womanhood, and fundyouradoption.org.
If you like what we do, drop us a rating in your podcast app. Find and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and let us know what you want us to cover in future episodes.
We've got a lot to work through. Join us back on the couch next week for another therapeutic episode of Adoption Pop.